Welcome back to the show. Next year, Donald Trump could be elected as president from prison. That technically can happen. He's due to appear in court today in Washington, D.C., where he's facing charges relating to the Capitol riots on January the 6th, 2021. The then president's accused of fueling the insurrection in a fiery speech that he delivered on the day. You probably remember it. And then by refusing to ask the rioters to leave the Capitol building once they turn violent. Joining me to discuss this, Jennifer Ewing from Republicans Overseas. Nice to see you, Jennifer. Thank you. And Talk Radio's political editor, Peter Cottle, remains with us. So it is being said, Jennifer, that every time Donald Trump is called to court or indicted for this thing or that thing, his popularity rises. People feel that he's a poor, beleaguered soul. They feel tremendous waves of empathy and sympathy for him. And it looks even more and more likely that he might end up becoming president.
Well, you're right. Every time there's one of these indictments, his poll numbers go up. He's able to raise more money. You'd almost think this was a Democratic strategy in order to, I do personally think this is a Democratic strategy. Yes, I do. I do think the Democrats want to run against President Trump in 2024. They feel they beat him in 2020 and they can beat him again. Or they feel Joe Biden can beat him again. So look, if this wasn't something they wanted, you would have learned that after you throw 78 charges at somebody and their poll numbers continue to go up, you're doing something wrong. So I think you'd stop. So again, it's brilliant Democratic strategy because we're talking about him right now. His picture's up here when, quite frankly, we in the party, we would love to see all of the other great people on our bench and the other candidates running being talked about. I would love to talk about, Ron DeSantis.
We try. We're always trying to talk about Ron DeSantis.
Look,
we do our very best.
No, I understand.
We beg to talk about him, but unfortunately, Donald Trump eclipses him every time. Well, he grabs every headline. He grabs all the attention, Peter. However much we're desperate to talk about Ron DeSantis, we haven't got much to say about him, have we?
Well, we don't really. And the interesting thing, I think, is on the Democratic side as well, because I wonder if maybe ask Jennifer, actually, I mean, do you think Biden will actually run? Do you think he will get there? Do you think he will, with all the problems he's having with his son, Hunter Biden, and so on? Or would it be perhaps, I mean, Kamala Harris is an interesting character because she's the vice president, but nonetheless, she's a very controversial character. Maybe someone like Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, might be a popular candidate. What do you think?
I hope you're not saying that just because I'm from California. No, actually, my personal view is that Biden will not be the candidate. You're right. We saw Hunter Biden's former business partner, Devin Archer, testify to Congress on Monday. And once again, then the indictment on Trump comes out the next day. Their timing is brilliant. The last time we had one of these indictments, it was, you guessed it, the day after.
And when you say their timing is brilliant, whose timing?
The Department of Justice.
And what is brilliant? What do you think is brilliant about this?
Sure. So when I say they, I mean, good question, I mean Biden's Department of Justice.
You think it's all coordinated?
I do think it's coordinated.
Okay. And let's just note that you have called it Biden's Department of Justice, not the Department of Justice.
Yes.
Why are you calling it that?
In this case, well, Merrick Garland, and then he appoints Jack Smith, and our country is very different as some of these appointments are political, right? So it works on both sides, right? So in the Mar-a-Lago indictment, it's a Trump-appointed judge, right? So the judge in this most recent indictment is an Obama-appointed judge who's already put some January 6 people in prison, has already looked into Trump. But going back to your question, Peter, no, I don't think he will be the candidate. I think, the Biden family influence peddling that's been going on, a lot of the facts are starting to come out. And while you don't see it reported in the everyday media, that's slowly starting to change. It will have to change. And this is no longer Hunter Biden. Devin Archer did say the other day that during the 10 years that he was a business partner with Hunter, he was aware of 20 times that Joe Biden actually called in on speakerphone when Hunter was actually with the guys from Ukrainian Burisma or his Chinese business partners.
But you see, so many people are saying that involving Hunter Biden in some kind of Trump Hunter Biden competition here, or saying that Hunter Biden's being fielded as a decoy duck, a distraction from Trump, or whatever it is. isn't accurate and doesn't make any sense because Trump was the president. Hunter Biden's just the son of. Their sphere of influence isn't the same. Trump was denying an election result. Trump was, preaching they're suggesting at any rate insurrection, mutiny, anarchy and chaos. Hunter Biden was possibly filling his own pockets. It's not the same. They don't compare. So using one to kind of be a distraction from the other doesn't work.
Well, I'd actually say two things. One, I think Donald Trump is the distraction against what's going on with the Biden family. And we will learn that this is not just Hunter Biden. This will go back to when Joe Biden was a vice president. So it is very relevant. The number two thing is I don't believe that the Department of Justice is going after former President Trump because of what he did when he was the former president. They are going after him because he is running for election in 2024. That's the only reason.
And what do you think about January the 6th?
I think it was a terrible stain on our country. I think it was, a disgraceful day. And I'm not going to defend the way that President Trump behaved at all. I would never defend that. However, I do think some of the things have been blown out of proportion. And just because somebody behaved in a despicable and ungratifying and, quite frankly, unpresidential fashion does not mean they did a crime. And
but if it was
they're two very different things.
Well, but yeah,
they're two very different things.
They're different. But if it was despicable and unpresidential and various other adjectives that you just used, all of which kind of tantamount to an abomination, how come you don't think it was criminal?
Well, I'm not a lawyer.
I know, but you said it doesn't mean they've committed a crime. But why not? What does it lack that you think would qualify it as a crime?
Well, and I'm sure you've had smarter people than me and from a legal perspective on here, but my understanding and the lawyers that I've listened to and read is that what they're going to have to prove in some of these charges, which are really, really obscure, is that Trump knew what he was saying was untrue. And anybody that's listened to President Trump over the last couple of years, I believe he really thinks that he won the election in 2020. I believe he thinks he did, right? So are we now prosecuting thought crimes? Right?
Well,
so
where we lead, you must follow. I mean, we've had a whole situation here, haven't we, Peter, with Boris Johnson and the question of whether he knew that what he was saying about Partygate was true or wasn't true or was misleading. That was the crux of the whole thing. Did he know? Did he believe it? Did he think he was at a party? Did he think he just wandered into the food cupboard? Was he actually just having a shower or was he at a party? Did he realise? I mean, this whole what did someone know thing, that's a thing. We're very familiar with
And how can you prove what's in someone's mind at the time, what they can and what they think, and they may be acting on incomplete information as well. But it is fascinating and it illustrates, I think, both. I'm always wary of comparing Boris Johnson and Donald Trump. I think there are comparisons, definitely, but I just don't like the sort of idea that, Boris Johnson's our Trump.
I'm not comparing the two men. I'm just comparing this idea of knowing what someone knew and an actual procedure to kind of try to root out and weed out what someone knew, and then an actual conclusion being reached. Because the punchline isn't, oh, we don't know, because we didn't know what he was thinking. You either do think or you don't think, and they came to a conclusion. They decided he did know.
And these processes, which some people think are flawed, of course, Jennifer mentions the Department of Justice in America. There's never going to be, for many Republicans, there's never going to be a true legitimacy to that, because some of it is democratically controlled, and these elements of political favoritism and not so much interference but nomination are there, and that is the way the American system works. Whereas there's clearly an imperfect system in regard to Boris Johnson in terms of the parliamentary procedures there as well. So it's really interesting. You're not just dealing with charges or with allegations, you're also dealing with the nature of the system itself and trust in politics as a wider concept.
Jennifer, what will be your thoughts if the future holds a former president in prison who is then elected president for a second term from prison, a prisoner, a convicted criminal who is then your president? What will happen then? Because it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that this could happen. I'm not saying probability, but it could happen.
Of course, it could happen. I don't think it will. And as a matter of fact, I don't think the purpose of any of this is to put former President Trump in prison. I think the process is the punishment. They want his dance card so full with indictments that, he has no time to campaign if he is, in fact, the GOP nominee. So, and the other thing is, Vanessa, is that, the Democrats are probably going to vote for it, whether it's Newsom or, I don't want to say Kamala Harris or Biden or whoever it is, the hardcore Republicans will vote for whoever the GOP nominee is. But we've got a very large contingency in our country of what we call independents. I believe it's around 38%. Are independents, are persuadables. That's the people that matter right now. Those are the people who they could decide the election. They quite frankly could. And those are the people, and this is going back to my theory of why the Democrats want to run against President Trump. Those are the people that, unlike probably, well, I listened to your show and yours, I mean, unlike people who are political junkies who have the time and the interest to dig in deep and read the nuances and have conversations and listen to people with different viewpoints, so we're not living in an echo chamber. Most people are just trying to, keep their families afloat, make sure their kids are educated after 2 years and being locked down. And economy worries. I mean, the economy, the election, quite frankly, will probably come down to what the economy looks like. So for those people, they're going to go, oh my God, I don't have time to look into this Trump stuff. I might think this is a two-tiered justice system and it's not fair and they are just throwing mud at him, but I don't want to have to listen to this. So what the majority of Americans, and depending on which poll you read, it's as high as 70%, but it's well over 50%, do not want to see either President Biden or former President Trump run again. We do not want to see that.
Jennifer, thank you very much indeed. Peter, thanks so much.